Hey everybody, Tony D with a hot take, and I gotta talk about Trump's press conference yesterday. Holy criminies. Uh, it was, as a friend of mine used to, a coworker of mine used to say, it was total fire. It was just fire. Trump came out, as he often does. First off, if you haven't been watching the Trump press conferences, you are missing out. You are missing out on something that is just as entertaining, if not more, than the OJ trial. He comes out every day and he starts talking about the beer virus, and he's got guest stars like Dr. Fauci and Dr. Bricks. But when he mixes it up with the reporters, it's just amazing. It's incredible. And yesterday was off the hook, just completely just derailed Trump at his maximum. And I don't mean that to say that Trump was the deranged one, because what you have to understand, if you've been watching these press conferences, Trump has actually kept himself pretty well in check through most of the emergency. You know, he'll make some sort of snide side comment to the reporters like, well, you asked me that question a few minutes ago, but I'll answer it again. Or, well, you're fake news, but I'm going to answer your question. Or, you know, when he takes a dig at, like, say Biden or Pelosi, well, you know, Pelosi didn't do this, but this is what we did. But for the most part, and you got to understand, these things, in the beginning, he was running the full 3 hours, letting people speak and then jumping in whenever a reporter got a little too antsy. And he would sort of defend whoever was talking or defend the administration's position on what they did or whatever. But yesterday, he comes in and he gives his normal spiel. And then he says, well, we put together a video for you. Now, the only people in the room are the reporters. That's it. That's the only people in the room. And, you know, they're all social distancing, so it looks half empty. But it's not. It's just they had to cut back on the reporters. And so he makes them watch this video. And what he does in the video is what the exact same thing the reporters do. And he takes a bunch of clips, mostly out of context, about the reporters reporting on him and when things were done. And it started out as a montage of all the people who said, oh, it's not that bad, it's no worse than the flu. Blasio was in it, and a few reporters who had their experts. And then it was a montage of what Trump did and when he had a timeline with the dates and when he did things, when he canceled the flights to China and Europe, and, you know, when he started moving medical equipment and all that. And so he plays this whole thing. It goes on for a good 4 minutes. And then he comes back, he goes, and I literally have hundreds of examples, but we only wanted the video to go so long. And the reporters are just stunned. So even for these guys, even for these total partisan hacks, they are just stunned. Like, Acosta is like, did you really just show us a campaign ad? Like, that's the best he can muster. And so during the course of the press briefing, he's arguing back and forth with the reporters, and they're still going at him. And the only thing these reporters have, and you could tell that they haven't done any research. Now, I used to watch these things back in the 90s and a little bit in the 80s, not as much, but mostly in the 90s and the 2000s. And the further back you go, the more informed the reporters tended to be, especially prior to the internet, right? They would ask questions, you know, in the late 80s, the question and answer thing, most of it wasn't televised, but if it was like Reagan giving like a press conference where he took questions, the reporters, you could tell, were very caught up on what was going on in the world. They asked very specific questions and very specific follow-up questions, and they were about events or issues, almost exclusively. As the years grinded on, they got further and further away from that, and they got caught up in gossip, Washington, D.C. sort of gossip, personality stuff and defending their party, which is the Democrats. Always has been. But back in the day, it wasn't like that. You had more journalists than activists. Now it's completely different. There's almost there's no journalist in that room. Not really. Not that I could hear. Because almost every journalist, they all have the same opinion. And it is, to Trump, you messed this up. Why did you do that? Or everybody's against you. Why do you keep doing this? Like, that is the tone over and over again. And they almost never give him any credit, except for the other end of the spectrum, which is OAN and Fox. They tend to fawn over him a bit. They tend to do the opposite. Well, you're doing so well, Mr. President. What next? But these guys had no comeback, because rather than look at the events and the issues, process the information, and prepare a question, what they do is they come up with their stance first. They go into these things with a stance. I don't think Jim Acosta does any research whatsoever. I think his staff does some and gives them questions based on what he wants to do that day. So the framing is, well, I want to confront Trump. Give me something to confront him about. The framing is not, hey, what's going on today? It's I have to confront Trump. Give me something to confront Trump about. And because of that, they're not prepared for the information that Trump had. And Trump said, I wrote it all down. He was doing their job. Trump was being a reporter. And he knew the dates and times of when he did everything. And you could tell these reporters didn't have that information memorized. And they should have. They should have. They were confronting him on this. Well, you're a late response. Or either that, or they knew the information. They knew that he was right, and they didn't have a pushback. They didn't have a pushback. So normally, you would have a situation in which the reporter would confront the politician with information, and they wouldn't have an answer, and they would get pissy. This is the first time in history I've ever seen a politician turn that on its head and do that to the reporters, and they got pissy. The reporters got pissy. Well, that doesn't matter. Like, that was normally the kind of thing you'd see press secretaries did. Well, we don't answer that. That kind of thing. And that was the attitude of the reporters. So it was amazing to watch Trump just trash them again and again. And I'm not saying that because, again, I'm like a total Trump guy or anything like that. But Trump is the only adult in the room. Trump is doing his job. Merely by doing his job. Merely by being above competency. Merely by dropping the act. He is head and shoulders above everybody. That's all he had to do. In some ways, it's like Idiocracy, right? So, if you've never seen the movie Idiocracy, not Owen Wilson. Is it Owen? No, Luke Wilson, his brother, plays a guy who's of average intelligence. He's in the Army, and they put him in an experimental thing it's only supposed to put him to sleep for like 3 months. But he wakes up, I don't know, like couple hundred years in the future, where basically idiots rule the world. And everybody's stupid. And the theory for that, and it's Mike Judge's theory, which is a really funny one, it's that smart people, when they're going to have kids tend to dither about it, and then sometimes they die. Whereas the idiots just keep effing each other, and they procreate way more. So he contrasts two people. It's this really smart couple. They're thinking about having a kid, and then you got this guy like Bubba, he's like a high school quarterback, but he's a moron, and he just bangs every girl he can, and he impregnates dozens of women over his lifetime, even though he never amounts to anything. He's a moron. But because he's a good-looking moron, and that's all he basically wants to do is F and drink, over the years, he just creates more little Bubba idiots. And Judge takes that to its logical conclusion that we're evolving into an idiocracy. So Trump is like Luke Wilson's character in that it's not that he's a genius. Luke's character is not a genius. He is of average intelligence. That's why he was chosen by the Army for this thing. But he knows the basics, right? And so the idiots in the future are pouring like the equivalent of Gatorade on all their crops. They can't understand why the crops aren't growing. So Luke Wilson basically explains to him, well, that's not how you do crops. And he's considered a genius because of that. And he not only has to do it, but he has to convince them because they're so dumb, that they just keep yelling nonsense at him. They just keep calling him gay and the F word for gay people. And, it's a great movie if you haven't seen it. You got to see it. It is a cult classic in the perennial world of film. I consider it an amazing achievement for Mike Judge. But Trump is Luke Wilson's character. He is in Washington, D.C. He is in a room full of morons who don't have any other response. They're trapped partly by their ideology, partly by their partisanship, and partly by their contracts. Because understand, if you work for CNN, right? Jim Acosta works for CNN. And I don't know anything about Jim Acosta. This is pure speculation on my part. But Acosta is a guy who, according to some accounts, is just the most self-serving, preening guy you ever want to meet. He doesn't seem to be in it for the news. He's in it for himself. He wants to get a TV show. He wants to go on talk shows. He wants to be famous. It's not about the journalism. Whereas you can see a guy who asks a question as a journalist, they ask a pertinent question regardless of whether or not the president's going to like it, whether or not it's going to enhance their brand or whatever. Whereas Acosta is constantly grandstanding, in my view, in the White House press room. He's constantly doing that. He's constantly there. He worries, I think, more about his look and how he comes off rather than what he's actually accomplishing as a reporter. Because reporters normally want to accomplish things. They want to expose a secret. They want to tell a story that nobody told. They want to, check the government's power. But these guys don't care about that. And you don't have any further to look than the Bush administration. Back during the Bush administration, all the guys who are now crying about Trump, who were around during the Bush administration, they couldn't do enough for the Bushes. They couldn't praise him enough after September 11th. Oh my God! Thank God for President Bush. I remember Chris Matthews when President Bush landed the plane and they did mission accomplished. Matthews, who was on MSNBC, it was leaning left already. It wasn't, where it is today, but it was definitely leaning left, said, well, that was the most presidential thing I've ever seen. And he couldn't praise Bush enough. MSNBC praising a Republican as if he was some sort of god who had walked out of the pyramid. But they can't do that with Trump. And it has nothing to do with him being a Republican, because he's not a Republican. He is a Democrat. He's an 80s Democrat who said he was a Republican to get elected. Instead, they cannot abide by his attack on the status quo. Now you could argue that Trump's attack on the status quo is bad in some respects, or good, or what he does is good or bad. There's plenty of discussion in there. But it's the status quo that is defending its position against Trump. That's what this is all about. So that's why so many news organizations and so many reporters are against Trump. They're actively against Trump because they're being pressured, I believe, behind the scenes by the forces that are the status quo is you got to tear this guy down. You have to tear this guy down. He's going to destroy our whole deal. And it's true. He is. You look at the virus. This is a situation in which, normally an organization like CNN would have huge ratings over this tragedy, because they love tragedy. If it bleeds, it leads. Instead, you got Trump, who's willing to say stuff like, well, I think this drug is going to be good and I think we should just start mass producing it. And he's very proactive in that way. And their knee-jerk reaction is to go, no, that can't be right, because they don't have research or the truth behind it. They only have their partisan hackery or their position. The only thing they have is their position. So when Trump moves left, they move right, and vice versa. And that's why Trump understands that. He understands that. And time again, Trump makes his position right at the beginning. He makes it very nuanced. He moves one way, and then he almost invariably swings back to the other way hard. Because the moment the media say, oh, there's his position, move the other way, Trump goes that way, and then the media is forced to turn around. It's happened again and again and again. And now partly that's because it may be, information on the ground. It may have been that Trump got the early information, which was, it's probably going to be the flu. It's probably going to be like SARS again, which is what most people would think, right? When you hear, prior to the beer virus, when you heard about a disease coming out of China, since we had two other diseases come out of China, what do you think? Well, you think what most people did. Oh, not this again. Well, this is going to suck. I sure hope I don't get it. I mean, usually it's just Chinese people, right? And usually it's just people, traveling to China, right? It's not like it's going to be a big deal. And twice it wasn't. It wasn't a big deal. And the news scared everybody. They scared everybody, certainly with the bird flu, and a little bit with the SARS too. Even South Park did a whole episode on it. So that would be the natural reaction. So Trump does the natural reaction because that's how Trump rolls, right? He just sort of talks off the cuff and says, well, I'm sure this has been no big deal. I don't think we need to close anything. And because he's on top of the information, Trump is very well informed. I mean, you have to give it to him. He knows what he's talking about. He got the information from people he trusts, and he looked at it and he goes, well, we had no cases. Well, we're not going to close down the country. We'll just keep monitoring it. I mean, what else do you want him to do? That's the most common sense thing to do, right? It's not that he's a genius. That is the most logical thing to do. Sir, there's a disease. Okay. Is anybody dying from the disease? Well, not in this country. It hasn't gotten here yet. Okay. So is it likely to? Well, I think if we just monitor the situation, they're saying that it's the flu. Okay, we'll just keep monitoring it and we'll see. And then after there were some cases, there was more talk. See, Trump's such a workaholic. I guarantee you, not only did he have that video put together, I guarantee you he was walking into the room while they were editing it. No. Do this, not this. Make sure you get Hannity in there. I guarantee you he was doing that. He knows how to supervise. And he probably wasn't there the whole time because he outsources things. Then he looks at it and then he decides. He might have had this thing going on for a couple of days. Put together this video. No, that's not good. Go back and do this, and this. And they would. Because that's how he operates. He knows how to outsource things. And if you'll notice, the early days of his administration, what was everybody obsessed with? He hasn't hired a lot of people and he's fired a lot of people. That's because Trump knows once you get the right people in place, then it's about delegating all the stuff to the people who work underneath you. And you get people who work like crazy. That's why he starts every press conference by saying stuff like, I don't think Mike Pence sleeps. He's the head of this task force. I don't think the guy sleeps. That's because Pence wants to please Trump, and Trump's a workaholic, so you got to be like him, right? So everybody underneath Trump is like him or trying to be like him. They're working their butt off. Trump doesn't, what does Trump do? He golfs and he works. That's it. And he has steak in between. That's it. The guy doesn't have a life. So you can't beat him. You can't beat him on doing half-ass research. You'd have to out-research him and come in there with real information. And even then, he is a master of optics. He has a way of putting people down, dismissing people, and just going, nah, that's all fake news. We'll get back to you. And because the reporters have been so inconsistent, because they're so lazy, because they don't care anything other than mostly their celebrity, and they've been doing this for so long, this partisan sort of hackery, Trump is running rings around them because they're idiots. And he's the only guy with average intelligence in the room. Welcome to Idiocracy. Are we close to a President Terry Crews? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, at least if Terry Crews was president, we'd have a guy who could bench press Kim Jong-un or any other world leader for that matter. All right, I've gone on too long. That's it for the press conference. If you haven't watched the Trump press conference, I'm telling you, you're missing out.